Hello, my name is Chris, and this is my model of the Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum. So, the museum was initially designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, who's a pretty prolific architect and a designer who's known for his buildings all across America, specifically here in Illinois. And it was made to be a type of repository for modern art. At least that was the intention of Solomon R. Guggenheim. So the building itself is made out of three identifiable parts. There's the main gallery here, which is kind of like iconic and even for the time period that the building was made, like very forward thinking because of its spiral. And the second part would be the monitor, which is kind of like this area where a lot of the like administrative and like office, like day to day stuff that keeps the museum running. And then the third part would be the annex, which stylistically is like the most striking in a sense because you got all these curves and then you just have a big square box, right? It's mainly used for like storage. I believe it's like a parking garage beneath it, and then again, like I believe there's also like cleaning crew and stuff, but mostly storage and parking. So at the time, the building was pretty unique in the sense that it used a new type of building material. Well, not exactly new, but definitely new for this type of like application called I believe it's called shotcrete or gunite, and basically they had giant hoses spray concrete like around the frames, the steel frames, steel and wood frames inside of the building, and that's at what the time gave it like this very like or allowed it to kind of have the very like spiral curvaceous nature that it's like known for today. Frank Lloyd Wright, when he had designed the building, kind of wanted something that kind of broke a lot of the like ideas and conventions of designing at the time because obviously a key part of like modernism was like being square, right? Like being like a geometric, right angles, obtuse angles, acute angles, just like very angular. Um, this kind of like bucked those trends, but kind of obviously still got like the base here. And even the monitor here has a piece that's like obviously square. So, um, I think the building kind of helps, or is like a last hurrah for Frank Lloyd Wright, who at the time when he was spearheading this project, he was definitely near the end of his life and would die not very long after the building was completed. Um, and it's it's very forward thinking and different in such a like a like an iconic stamp by that was left by like I mean we could be real, probably America's greatest architects, like in terms of just like influence, and I'm pretty sure like seven heritage sites are like his like structures that he's designed. um and even then at the time when like the initial designs were kind of unveiled for the building, there's a lot of public backlash against it because of its very like obviously like the curvy nature. I mean, some people thought it looked disgusting. Some people thought it was very like avant-garde. And then some people thought that in a more traditional sense that it kind of clashed with like the scene or like the architecture was very dominant in New York, right? Modernist buildings already kind of had a hard enough time, like fitting in and everything. Um, so like to have this kind of like explode onto the scene was very polarizing. And personally, I think that you know it all works out, right? Like again, this new kind of strange, even by today's standards, right? With the funnel and the monitor. I mean, like it's a weird looking building. Um, but it's very striking, and I feel like it you need something striking if you really want it to just be this museum dedicated to like modern art, which is, in my opinion, about pushing the boundaries, right? I think that the Guggenheim is, or was, or I mean still exists, right? It is important. um I think like just seeing it in itself is a spectacle. And I think having it in a city like New York definitely in like makes it even more impactful, because even though people have these very like, traditionalist and like modern, or not even, well, I guess modernism became like traditionalism in the way that we design buildings, right? But I guess like these kind of like more gothic art deco ideas of designing buildings, like again art deco, another movement that was kind of like, oh, it's not traditional, but like these movements are important just flat out, but it's like their importance is amplified when you have them in a city like New York, or in a city like Chicago, or in a city like San Francisco, these major cities that are just like known across the world as being like epicenters of just thought, idea, culture, and progress. Um and so I think in like that sense, I mean, like that's powerful. Like it's a testament to that. And even then with Frank Lloyd's like own like philosophy about like, plasticity in nature, and like showing the flowing curves, then using shotcrete, which would be, which is kind of like a proof of concept in and of itself, right? You have such like a major building made by a at the time a very wealthy man, that would become a very prestigious museum designed by, again, like one of the like world greats in terms of just architecture. um I think that it all really comes together, and it's a nice looking building. Terrible sculpture, not good at sculpting. I couldn't really figure out a way to deal with the curves and everything, because I'm like, I can't really use wood. I mean, I guess I could have used plywood maybe, but I don't know. Like clay was like the first thing I thought of. I was gonna make it out of glass, not glass cleaner, pipe cleaner. Then that would have been ridiculous. So, um, I like the building. I'm a huge fan of Frank Lloyd Wright. Um, I've seen like a lot of his buildings here and around Chicago, whether that being Riverside, or the building out in Batavia. Huge fan of the Prairie School. Um, so I mean, like, even though like this was like challenging to sculpt, it was kind of a treat just to like, oh, cool, something else that Frank Lloyd Wright has made. Just kind of added to my little database. So, yeah, thank you.